Star Wars Battlefront 2 continues to reach new peaks as the game blows up 7 years later. It has reached 5th on trending in PlayStation above Fortnite. Supposedly, it spiked with over 100,000 concurrent players after May 4th and is still holding strong at 80,000 to 90,000. And now players are spreading the word for Battlefront 3, even making their own subreddit, r/WeWantBattlefront3, which has gained over 600 members in less than 1 week. This movement makes it seem like Battlefront 3 is more and more likely. But my question is, what would we actually be getting out of Star Wars Battlefront 3? So I asked my Discord channel just that. What do you want to see out of Battlefront 3? And the responses were great. Real quick, huge thank you to Instant Gaming for sponsoring this video. They have literally the best deals in gaming. I use it all the time. If you like Star Wars games, Lego Star Wars for $2. Star Wars Battlefront 2 for $9. One of my favorite Star Wars games, Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, $1.70. If you want to play the Star Wars Galaxy at War mod, Men of War Assault Squad 2, $3. Extremely popular games can be up to 99% off. Link in the description below. Thank you to Instant Gaming for sponsoring the channel. Thank you guys for watching. Let's get into the video. Star Wars Battlefront 3 has not been more hyped up in years. In fact, I don't think I've ever seen the hype for a potential Star Wars Battlefront 3 being this high in my entire life. And that's all without Disney, without EA, without Lucasfilms making any type of comment on Star Wars Battlefront 3 even existing. No official Star Wars account has even mentioned it. This is nuts. Right now, we reportedly, as mentioned earlier in this video, have over 100,000 concurrent players in Star Wars Battlefront 2. Now, that is a loose number from apparent inside sources from Battlefront updates, and that number, it's pretty suspect at this point in time. We just cannot be sure how accurate it is. However, I choose to believe that it's at least 50,000 players online. The only concrete numbers we have are from Steam. However, you have to remember the majority of PC players are probably playing on EA due to the fact that that's where the game first came out and was only available for years. And on top of that, there's PlayStation, Xbox, and I'd imagine console players for a Star Wars Battlefront game are going to be outnumbering PC players overall. I think that makes sense, at least in my head, because of the fact that console is much more casual, and this is a game that doesn't really have any type of competitive play to it, so people are more likely to play console. So these numbers are absolutely massive, and I think it is a guarantee that someone in the Star Wars sort of development team of whether it be the films, the games, or just some Disney executive is in fact taking note of this and has acknowledged it. Not publicly, but I think it's almost impossible to have this resurgence in Star Wars and not have them knowing. They have entire teams at these companies just for following trends. That is an entire job description for companies as big as Disney. That way they can capitalize on it and make more toys, make more games, etc. whenever they have something trending that's an IP they actually own. So I think it is very far-fetched to say that nobody has seen this type of hype happening. And on top of that, it's just everywhere at the moment. It is not just Reddit or YouTube, which, by the way, million sub YouTubers are posting Star Wars Battlefront, and they haven't posted about it in 8 years. And that's got to count for something. I mean, that is huge mainstream appeal there, if you were to ask me. But not only that, we've got TikTok blowing up with Battlefront 3. Something I never really thought I would see it hitting the mainstream. And it started by basically just people bombarding the Star Wars comment section about Battlefront 3, but it has since evolved well past that. And you know it's in the mainstream when it has evolved past that, because now people are spamming pretty much every viral video out there in the last 24 hours about Battlefront 3. I would say if you go and you see a viral video that was posted in the last 24 hours, there's a 1 in 2 chance that you see comments about Battlefront 3 with a lot of likes and upvotes on them. It's kind of absurd. It's, again, something I really never expected to be seeing, because this game hasn't had an update in 5 years. It is a dead game. I might die to this. Oh, we barely lived. Let's go. My goodness, I can't believe we survived that fall. On a wing and a prayer, baby. But yeah, this game is super dated at this point. It's having a huge resurgence, not only in the zeitgeist of people, but also in players actually taking action, putting money where their mouth is, and playing the games, which is the biggest thing. Because Star Wars not only needs to be shown that, hey, people are saying they're interested in it, but we also need to show that we're interested in it by playing the games and showing that we're willing to spend time and potentially money on the property again. So I think it is highly likely that Battlefront 3 is being seriously considered as of right now, and I think it would be great to see at least some sort of mention about it. However, one question still sort of looms ahead. What would Battlefront 3 even be about? I mean, besides Star Wars and, you know, your average Battlefront experience, we all know what Battlefront, well, the franchise is in general. We've had 25 years of it now, 25 years of glory without a trilogy ever happening. But I personally think that they have the opportunity to make Battlefront 3 something incredible, something very new that we have not seen prior. And it would just kind of matter on whether or not the developers want to go with the tried and true Battlefront method or get a little bit experimental with it. And I think experimenting in video games can be some of the best results in video games of all time. So it'd be really great, I think, if they did go ahead and actually altered their approach to Battlefront in general. So I polled my Discord on what you guys think about Star Wars Battlefront and what it could become, asking, hey, what would you like to see? What would you like to see changed? And how would you personally change that to make for a better Battlefront experience? And personally, you guys have heard my thoughts on this. Prior to a couple of years ago, I didn't really think there was a need for Battlefront 3. I felt like, you know, the generation that we had currently with Battlefront 2 was already fairly peak, and people weren't even playing Battlefront 2, so why would they make a Battlefront 3? And everything seemed very solid to me. My opinion on that oh god, Ray, no! My opinion in that regard has changed significantly if you were to ask me now. Because I think we've gotten to the point where, while these graphics are still fantastic, looking at modern day graphics, it can be improved considerably. Not only that, so many new game mechanics and ideas for shooter games like Battlefield, Call of Duty, etc. have been released and could make for extreme improvements to Battlefront. So I am now in the camp that a Battlefront 3 is essential for Star Wars gaming. Before, I thought we can always play Battlefront 2, and I'm not sure what else they would change, but now I really do think that there is plenty that could be changed. My top opinions for this, before we get into what the community is saying, and some other YouTubers also weighed in on what they would like to see in a potential Battlefront 3, so that's great as well. We'll be hearing from, like, Forensic Steel, a legend in the Star Wars community, particularly with, of course, Arma 3. Now, personally, I think it would be really cool if we saw a bit more of a Battlefield-style approach to Battlefront 3 as opposed to going the Battlefront route that we're usually used to. I think it'd be really cool to see more of a class system that allows for individual weapons to be picked and customization. Right now, every weapon, and there's only 5 weapons per class, can be customized with 3 different attachments. I think seeing a Battlefield-esque attachment and weapon system would be far cooler for this. And mix the eras. I think it'd be perfectly fine to be seeing E5s in the, you know, Galactic Civil War era, and starting to see more mix and matching of weapons for different classes while still keeping the Clone Wars or Age of the Republic type beat still active out there. I'd also like to see the class systems have actual ammunition and have medics be available so you can go and heal other players who are downed, or like a repair droid would be really pretty cool to see if you could go and repair other units if you're playing for the CIS or whatever. Or maybe you can have a hero unit who can use force heal to heal people and revive them and things like that. That would add a lot more optimization to the different classes, make them a little bit more distinct, and make it less about kill hunting. You know, officer classes, yes, are sort of that support class right now, but they're rarely played, and when they are played, it's mainly kill hunting. So having the ammo replenishment class, the medic class, the sniper class, etc. in a very similar way to Battlefield, I think would be a huge benefit to the series and would be really cool to see. It would make it a little bit more realistic of a Star Wars experience compared to what Battlefront is. Now, that might be a hot take because I know a lot of people really prefer the Battlefront system over the Battlefield system, but again, I think it would be dope just personally. On top of that, I would like to see multiple more eras out there. The Old Republic coming into fruition would be really fun to see. I know that it's not nearly as popular and maybe would need to be a later update or something like that, or might only be one map or something along those lines. I still think it would be really cool to see. My final major point that I'd really like to see in Battlefront 3... I thought the monkey was a clone! Bro, that's a clone! Oh my god, my aim. Wow, that was... okay, that was really sad. The commando fire rate on this weapon is super bizarre. I'm gonna blame it on that, even though it was completely my fault anyway. So I really think the final thing I'd like to see is what originally Battlefront 3, all the way back in like 08 when they were starting to develop the new Battlefront 3 for the old school classic Battlefront 2 successor, is seeing ship-to-ground combat. Right now, we do have some of that. I mean, you can actively go in a ship in the sky right now and fight. That's something you could do, but having ship boarding and a Venator above the battlefield right now on Kashyyyk would bring a whole new element to the game. Being able to spawn in an LAAT up in a Venator and then drop down to help defend the planet would be incredible. Having an orbital cannon that you can control on said Venator, firing down to the ground troopers as support, would be next level. Or going from the ground in a droid ship up to said Venator, boarding it and blowing it up, that would be the ultimate Battlefront experience. I just can't think of anything better than that. That would truly come full circle in what Battlefront 3 was meant to be, because that's what they had originally planned, and I killed myself. Either way, boys, why don't we take a look at what my community on Discord is saying about Battlefront 3. I made an entire Battlefront 3 thread so people could discuss what they would like to see for this video, and I think some of their ideas are incredible. I'm not the biggest fan of other ideas, but it really gets me thinking about what Battlefront 3 could potentially have to offer. Just a Country Ball says, different eras ranging from the Old Republic, High Republic, prequels, original trilogy, sequels, and legacy era. Now, I think everyone would like to see this pretty much. I think what would also be cool is if we saw, you know, old Clone Wars versus new Clone Wars, aka early Clone Wars versus, you know, late Clone Wars battling. Instead of having a mix of Phase 1 and Phase 2 clone skins on the battlefield, having it be Clone Wars era specific, including the different weapons that are later introduced in the Clone Wars, that would be really cool. And you could also do the same with like the Galactic Civil War and stuff like that. I think that would be sick. Anon says that he would like to see Zombie Stormtroopers versus Stormtroopers game mode. Now we semi have something like this with Ewok Hunt, which is obviously supposed to be kind of a spooky horror type game mode, and it was for a long time one of the most popular game modes. Every Halloween people would go back and revisit it because it's really fun, and it's essentially like Infected from Call of Duty, which is always a popular game mode in Call of Duty, and I think would really work well in Star Wars Battlefront, especially if you did it sort of like the Blackwing virus from Death Troopers, that would be really sick. I think that would have Star Wars validity in it. It would slightly bring Death Troopers into lore instead of it being Legends, which I believe is what it is right now, and it'd be pretty sick to have just an entire zombie-themed Star Destroyer map where zombies are infesting every nook and cranny and you and survivors have to survive. It could be a mix of bot zombies as well as human zombies, and when you turn, you get turned into a zombie. I think this is a, you know, an absolute home run, easy concept, already popular. It's a good idea. No Dig the King said, better anti-cheat, and I have to agree. This really wasn't much of a problem from what I remember when Battlefront 2 was in its heyday, but recently I've been seeing people getting 500 eliminations in Battlefront 2 and just absolutely blowing the other team out of the water, and those are clearly cheaters. I mean, yes, it is technically possible, especially in Supremacy, where the games last an extremely long time and there are a lot of bots in those games, so yes, you can get super high elim games, but it's not super likely to be happening at the rate it is currently, and it's pretty obvious when people are cheating in this game. I don't think it's really fooling anyone, to be completely honest. So yes, I think you're completely right. They need to revamp the anti-cheat. I mean, hell, if they even came out and just boosted the anti-cheat for Battlefront 2 right now, I think a lot of people would be very happy, and it would also help the longevity of Battlefront 2 in general. I think more people would come back to it if there was less anti-cheat problems. And the real thing behind that is the fact that a lot of people are quitting after seeing the hype of Battlefront 2. They hop on, they play a few rounds, and then they get absolutely curb stomped by a cheater and decide, you know what? Maybe I'll go play the classic Battlefront 2, or maybe I'll just hop off entirely and go play a game that actually gets anti-cheat updates. And this is a major problem that I would like to see resolved, because it really should be. Now, that's not saying that every single game right now does have a cheating problem, but there's obviously no bans going out right now because there's no developers and there's no development on the anti-cheat. So that does suck. Dark2083 says, I would like the game to actually release before I am 100. And isn't that the truth? Bro, I just got bossed. Come on! Alright, boys, I got us into another game here of Walker Assault on Tatooine. And speaking of Walker Assault, Glasto Pasto says that he would like to see a bit more of a Grand Operations style game mode from Battlefield 1, and I completely agree, and that is, you know, kind of similar to what Walker Assault is in Battlefront 2, I would say. However, obviously on a much larger, more grand, for lack of a better word, scale, and with more players. And I think that would be very awesome, with a bit more of story progression going on as well throughout the game mode. I think that would be extremely cool to see, and I think there's so many comparisons going around between Battlefield and Battlefront, and this has been since the very first Battlefront by EA was released, because EA made Battlefield, and I think everyone was kind of expecting Battlefront to turn into more of a Battlefield franchise under their watch. It didn't really. There are definitely some aspects a bit more similar, but yeah, it never fully went all the way there. But I do think seeing more Battlefield in Battlefront would only be a good thing, because that is just such a winning combination for a game. 100%. We are getting absolutely dominated here. I joined this game late, and my team is getting throttled. Pip of the Pips says, a game mode where you can fly larger vehicles like frigates, so players can have large-scale ship battles. I think that would be sick. I think it also kind of ties into the idea of ship-to-ground battling, but also just in terms of, you know, fighter assault and things like that, having the ability to play as an actual Venator fighting against smaller ships would be sick. It would be sort of very Master and Commander, like old school 1800 ship battles. I think that would be dope to see in space. That'd be incredible. We're gonna try out a little bit of heroes versus villains, which I'm actually terrible at, especially lightsaber heroes. So we're gonna try out Han Solo here. But Other people have some pretty good ideas, like seeing more hero units. This is from Nate Dogg. They'd like to see characters like Ahsoka and Ventress, and I think that's a very big and viable thing. We could see so many more Star Wars heroes. Star Wars has some of the best characters in all of sci-fi and fantasy, and we only have a select few of them here, pretty much all the mainline heroes. Seeing so many more of them in the game would be fantastic. Now, this is one of my favorite comments here, and it's from Forensic Steel, and I'll read it while we're waiting for one more player, and then when we're actually playing, we'll discuss it. Multiplayer Galactic Conquest, where it's a mix of Empire at War and classic Battlefront 2. Players are either allied or versus, and they move their fleet/army to a planet they want to attack. If it's versus, the other players take control of the opposing army and they fight it out on space or land. Maybe throw some planet development stuff so you can upgrade your forces, unlock vehicles, and special units, etc. Forensic, this is a 10 out of 10 idea in my opinion. I really do think that having a grand scale multiplayer campaign in Star Wars would be so cool, and it would differentiate it so much from other Star Wars games. And the big thing that I imagine this being able to do is have players cooperatively choose where to put their resources in a very similar manner to like Helldivers, which, you know, is a little bit of a smaller scale campaign than this seems to be imagining, and this seems to be a lot more interactive. But having a large scale voting system where you can choose where your resources go throughout this campaign, and, you know, then you kind of have to deal with mob vote and things like that, I think that could be so cool to see. Oh god, I'm so cooked. I'm so cooked. I'm so cooked. Ah! Ah! What is happening? Oh god. No, we're good, we're good. Help me out, boys. I think Boba's somewhere back there still, maybe not. Yeah, I think we're good. So yeah, I really think that this is one of the most peak ideas that I've seen thus far. And actually, oh god. Thanks, Darth. I really think Helldivers has proven that the future of grand multiplayer experiences is player voting and player impact on a much larger scale than we've previously gotten. And I think that, again, Helldivers is just one game where we could see this, but also things like Foxhole and stuff like that, these games have standed the test of time because people are so interested in their decisions affecting the outcomes. And I think people yearn to fight for something that's more grand scale. Right now, the most we have in most mainstream games is playing a singular match and hoping you win or affect the outcome of that one match right there. We want a larger grand campaign like Forensic is talking about, where we're able to influence things so much more. I think that would just take things to the next level, and no AAA studio has really been able to figure that out yet. Grand Operations is the one thing I can really think of that does that in Battlefield 1, and even that is a microcosm. It's just one battle that you're working your way through, but it does feel grander scale. It does feel like you're having a bigger impact than just that one singular match, even though you're not really. I think if they actually did make that happen, people would go gaga for it. People would go nuts for it, and it'd be really, really fun to be able to have that influence on a game overall. I think that's what people want to see. And, you know, I could be wrong. Maybe people don't really care. But I know for a fact that that's what I would like to see a lot more of in games, is just having a bigger impact and making it feel like you're making a difference on a larger scale, very similar to Helldivers. You know, I think that would be sick, and I really think that games need to do a better job doing that overall. Oh, come on! Leave me and the other blaster characters alone, bro! What the heck is this? Hold on. Oh god. No, I did not see you there, Dooku. Ugh! I saw a bunch of people also saying Battle Royale, and I'm not gonna, you know, say it's a bad idea or anything along those lines. and you know, I don't want to insult anyone who said that, but I think it's kind of a boring idea, and I think we basically already have that through, thank you so much for saving me right there. I think we already have that essentially in Fortnite right now. I mean, the entire map is themed after Star Wars, and it's really cool, and I do really like it, but I don't think we need Battlefront to have a Battle Royale game mode in it. I think it's played out. I think we can already do that in Fortnite. I think it's another story if you want to see a Star Wars themed Battle Royale game solo without having any connection to Battlefront 2. I think that's viable. I think that'd be cool to see, but having it be in Battlefront would feel like a game mode that, first of all, would probably be abandoned by people pretty quickly, but also just, who cares? You know, I just don't think it's needed in the slightest. Someone named Nerd just said graphics, and yeah, I think it would be great to see next-gen graphics. These graphics are still fantastic that we're getting right now in Battlefront 2. I don't want to take anything away from that. This game has stood the test of time, and for the next 10 years will probably still look incredible. I hate you, Darth Maul. However, yeah, I think it'd be great if we got even better next-gen graphics in this and really saw that improvement. I don't think it's like completely necessary since this still looks beautiful, but that's okay. Arc7878 says, adding onto the point of the different eras, seeing more Legends stuff in general, a Battlefront game with both Legends and canon content, like how Galaxy of Heroes has both Legends and canon stuff, would be amazing. And I completely agree. I think, especially for people who hate the sequels, seeing like Mary Jane Skywalker and stuff like that would be incredible. And I think people would really, really go for it. And it would be a lot more entertaining, and then you can also have the sequel content in there and appease both the old school crowd who really likes the, you know, non-sequel content, but also, like, the kids do like the First Order and things like that. You'd be naive to say that they don't. Have that for the kids. CT Hardline says a realistic battles game mode, and I think that'd be pretty sweet as well. You know, a hardcore game mode, if you will. He elaborates more on some of his points, but just in my head, you know, taking what he's saying and kind of imagining what I'd like to see from that, just basically make Galactic Contention mod for Squad in Star Wars Battlefront 2. That would be pretty awesome. And honestly, it's probably not necessary because the Galactic Contention mod is fantastic, but maybe just make a separate game for that mod specifically. Get a license from Arma as well as the mod creators, and just make that a game, and I think it would be huge because that game is sweet. Well, that mod is sweet and people would love it. I don't think it necessarily needs to be in Battlefront, but yeah, making Battlefront more realistic, more hardcore, just in general, having some type of hardcore game mode would be sick. Obviously, that kind of squad-based tactics from Galactic Contention, that's a lot to do for just a game mode or something like that, and it's not something that everyone necessarily would want to see in a full game mode. Or a full game, rather, but having it in, you know, a separate game or just a hardcore light game mode in the game would be cool. And pretty much everything else is more of the same from what I've said, with people putting smaller, different twists on it, you know, ideas we've already seen others comment and just sort of elaborating on them and things like that. But it seems like the main takeaway is that A, people really want to see Battlefront 3 become a real thing, including me, but not only that, having it be a different game from Battlefront 2. People want to see an overhaul, they want to see grander scale battles, they want to see way more content out there, and also a lot more customization options. Things that Battlefront 2 don't really offer, but would make for an amazing Star Wars gaming experience. Either way, guys, that's about it for today. Join my Discord if you want to answer more questions. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys want to see? Do you really want to see Battlefront 3, and, you know, what do you want to see in it? Either way, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.
I hope you guys enjoyed that video.
Be sure to click that subscribe button for more content, and hit the notification bell if you'd like to be alerted to whenever I live stream or upload. Thanks so much.